This is the Sony a6000 digital camera. It has everything you want in a DSLR in a small camera. It has a 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor and uses interchangeable E-series lenses.
For savvy shooters, there's a viewfinder, manual controls, extensive customization, and the ability to save in RAW mode. It records 1080p video at both 60 and 24 frames. I've been totally gratified by this camera's ability to deliver great photos. From day one, I've felt positive and confident using the a6000. With full manual and powerful auto modes, this camera can satisfy advanced technical shooters as well as artistic but tech-phobic shutterbugs. The a6000 is a near-ideal combination of size, quality, and features. The more I shot, the more I liked. In Sony's lineup, the a6000 falls in price and functionality between the a5000 and the NEX7. Available with a kit 1650 or body only, my review unit included the new Sony Zeiss E-mount 16-70. I was also able to borrow a Zeiss 2-it 12mm wide angle, which enabled me to take some pictures that have foiled me in the past. More about both later.
The a6000 is a rangefinder design with a comfortable grip. It's a precision-engineered device with a solid feel. The articulated 3-inch LCD has a sunlight mode for bright conditions. It doesn't flip up far enough for selfies. I prefer using the bright and clear OLED viewfinder, which is slightly offset from the lens. Note that if you prefer using the left eye, you'll be constantly cleaning nose prints from the LCD. The adjustable diopter means I could shoot without wearing my glasses. The viewfinder's 1.4 megapixel resolution, while less than higher-end Sony cameras, is precise enough to focus accurately using expanded view. The electronic viewfinder is bright enough to feel optical, but you get a real preview of your image. And you don't have to switch to using the LCD in movie mode. The mode dial has too many options. Movie mode is particularly annoying. Switching to it disables the shutter button. Green and gold auto should be combined, as should manual and memory recall, and panorama belongs with scenes. I do appreciate the large and accessible control dial, great for setting aperture, shutter, and other shooting settings. The current function is displayed on screen in the bottom right. The multi-purpose control wheel on the back also appears on screen. In manual, the wheel is the iris, the dial is shutter. In addition to its dial functionality, the 4 points provide quick access to drive mode, ISO, EV adjustment, and display modes on the LCD and viewfinder. This button releases the small onboard flash. It's useful in a pinch. The multifunction hot shoe supports mics, flashes, and other Sony accessories. The function button opens a customizable on-screen control panel. Very useful, although I had trouble finding the button while my eye was on the viewfinder. Among LCD display options is the viewfinder mode, which provides a clearer view of settings and easy adjustment with the quick Navi menu. In addition to 2 custom buttons, many of the other buttons, controls, and displays can be customized with a large selection of functions. I wanted to exchange the function and AEL buttons, one customization that's not possible. Auto mode detected and selected scenes, macro for flowers, landscape for wide shots, and portraits for pictures of my daughter. In auto mode, there are options to select the autofocus and exposure metering modes for the scene. Select multi, center, or spot to select the object to expose for, or use face detect, which sets focus and exposure for the faces in the frame. I added face detect to the function menu for easier access. With both contrast and phase detect, the a6000 focuses quickly without hunting. In addition to single shot, autofocus A will lock when the subject is motionless. Autofocus C continues to focus. I found these very useful options to have. Using burst and continuous autofocus makes it easy to shoot moving subjects. In this sequence, I was shooting in burst mode while a streetcar approached. Someone stepped in front. Without missing a frame, it refocused on the man, and then without missing a frame, back to the streetcar. Impressively fast. That said, autofocus is not up to all challenges.
It can be slow in low light and sometimes focuses on the closest subject instead of the one you intend. Of course, that could be an operator error. For focus area, you can choose wide, zone, which can be moved around the frame, center, and 3 sizes of movable spot. With the function menu, they're easy to get to and use. But wait, there are more focus options in the menu. Pre-AF makes focus active whenever the camera is on. It decreases battery life slightly, but it means you're always ready to shoot. Very useful. You can also separate focus from the shutter by assigning autofocus to another button, like the handy, easy-to-feel AEL button, and turning focus with shutter off. Then you can click the AEL button once for a subject to focus, and keep clicking without a refocus for each image. Handy. You have to dig deep to find some features like eye autofocus, which finds the subject's eye as the prime focus point. This needs to be assigned to a custom button, and this is the only place it appears in the menus. If it can't find an eye, it uses face detect. For manual, when you turn the focus ring, a magnified view appears for 2 or 5 seconds or until you take the image. You can also use peaking, which shows the edges of objects in focus. Lock-on autofocus enables object tracking. Press the center button to activate, press again to select the object, watch it not work too well, and press again to cancel. I prefer autofocus continuous. It did take some time to master these focus features and customize the menus to configure them to my preferences, and note that you can save 3 as custom settings. I haven't mentioned the menu system. It's fairly traditional, and in spite of the complexity of the features with 3 levels of navigation, pretty easy to use. Manual exposure settings range from bulb, available in manual, to 1/4000, ISO 100 to 25/6, with a very useful auto setting that works in manual. Yes! And you can set both an auto minimum and maximum. I see grain at 800, but it's minimal until 6400. Remember, this is 24 megapixels. To get you to the right exposure, the on-screen exposure guide appears when you're making iris or shutter speed adjustments. There are shutter and iris indicators, or a histogram. The numerical meter, just right of center on the bottom, is small, not my favorite. There are 5 steps of EV at 0.3 or 0.5 step increments. There's a full complement of white balance options, including underwater, and a color adjustment grid. A comprehensive set of drive options include 3 burst speeds, 2 timer settings including a 3 or 5 image burst, white balance and dynamic range brackets, as well as continuous and manual exposure brackets with settings ranging from 0.3 to 3 EV with 3 or 5 images. Impressive. Bracket changes the shutter speed. Unless you have auto ISO selected, then exposure is adjusted using ISO. Interesting. White balance and dynamic range brackets save 3 versions from a single exposure. The highest speed burst rate is remarkable. In fine JPEG mode, nearly 50 images before it slows. With RAW, it rattled off 22 frames before slowing. But you will need a fast SD card, or patience while you wait for the camera to save, and you can't make adjustments like changing back to single exposure until it's finished. Sony's mirrorless cameras have long been the go-to for photographers with classic lenses looking for a digital back. As a result, there are adapters for just about every lens mount. But Sony's been busy extending their E-mount lens portfolio, which now includes about 20 models, mostly crop, but a few full-frame lenses as well. And third parties, including Tamron, Sigma, and Zeiss, are releasing E-mount lenses. This 12mm Zeiss Tuit opens to f2.8. With the APS-C crop, it's the equivalent of 18mm, a very wide angle, 89 degrees horizontal, and no barrel distortion for such a wide angle. Autofocus is quick and precise, but slightly noisy. And yes, this is a pure Zeiss autofocus lens, with a grippy, rubbery ring for manual focus. Filter diameter is 67mm. It's a nice light 260 grams, which suits the a6000 perfectly. Obviously great for landscapes, street scenes, and buildings. I've wanted to get a good photo of the Prince of Wales Hotel in Niagara-on-the-Lake for years. I finally got it. The Tuit excels at streetscapes. It's fun for portraits with great depth of field, but you can get some pretty good bokeh too. Minimum focus distance about 16 centimeters. That, combined with the 2.8 iris, makes it great for food pictures, but also provides lots of interesting composition possibilities. Zeiss makes a Fuji X-mount version with a manual aperture ring and a 32mm f1.8 E-mount. The Zeiss branded Sony 16-70 offers an f4 aperture across the zoom range. This is equivalent to 24-105 in 35mm, which is an ideal walkabout. Minimum focus here is 35 centimeters. With full zoom, you can fill the screen with a 4-centimeter square, perfect for Playmobil portraits. At 308 grams, it's slightly heavier than the 12mm, but still well balanced for the a6000. I prefer to shoot in RAW mode. It enables me to save a near miss in the bizarre lighting of the CN Tower observation deck into a hit in Lightroom, and so far everything I've discussed works for RAW and JPEG. The following 7 features are available for JPEG mode only. They're all great, and I fully understand the why of using JPEG for these, but please, could we also have an unadulterated RAW version saved? End of rant. First, Sony's best-in-class panorama mode. Second, a dynamic range extension feature called Auto HDR that takes 3 images with a range as much as 6 EV and combines them into a single image. After you've seen this work, you'll miss it on every other camera. 3. Auto Multiframe Iso, a manual version of the handheld twilight scene mode, great in low light. 4. Auto Portrait, which saves a second version of an image if it feels you didn't do a good job framing. Nice. 5. Quick adjustments in auto mode. These provide simple on-screen controls to set background defocus, brightness, color vividness, and choose the picture effects. See how easy this makes defocusing your background? At least until you get the out of range warning. 6. Digital zoom. While interesting, you can probably do a better job just cropping the image on your computer. And finally, a wide range of interesting picture effects, gimmicky but fun, with way more features and options than I found elsewhere. You could do these things in post with topaz filters, but it's nice to have the option to do this in camera. And if you set a custom button to flip RAW back on, it removes the effect so you can take the unaltered photo immediately afterwards. I'm sometimes hesitant to take photos of flowers with deep reds and purples, which tend to inaccurate and oversaturated photos. Not here, detailed with true colors. This was a good choice for the Tulip Festival. Video quality is high, but in the absence of a dedicated mic in and headphone out, you'll need to go dual system for audio. And as far as I can tell, the a6000 isn't compatible with Sony's multi-interface audio adapter. Onboard mics provide better than average recording, but there's no level control or on-screen display. The movie button is hard to find and hard to press. Movie modes, program, aperture, shutter, and manual are selected independently of still modes and provide all of the control filmmakers want. In movie mode, maximum ISO is 12.8, minimum shutter is 1/4. EV is limited to 2 stops, plus or minus. And video is where I really miss an ND filter, enabling me to open up for some shallower depth of field or to shoot at 1/60th to capture motion smoothly. Video makers will appreciate the zebra display, usually used to set the exposure of white skin, typically at 70 or 75%, or you can use it for clipping at 100%. I prefer using the histogram.
1, 2, 3.
Other Sony models are converting to the XAVCS codec with higher bandwidth. Not sure why that's not included here. The a6000 has a mini HDMI port for monitoring. When an external monitor is connected, neither the viewfinder or LCD display any image. There's a clean feed option for an external recorder. If that's selected, the display with overlay reappears. There are 2 focus settings for movie mode: drive speed, slow, normal, and fast for sporting events, and track duration. Normal prevents focus from being too easily distracted by foreground objects. You can't take stills while recording video.
This is a smart camera. It can create a Wi-Fi hotspot to transfer photos to your smartphone or take pictures using remote control. Or you can upload directly to social media sites using Wi-Fi. Sony also offers downloadable apps, some free, some not. Although inexpensive and interesting, they're a little cumbersome and not well integrated, and they really require their own reviews. Since introducing apps, Sony has continued to release new ones. I haven't tried them all, but do like the time-lapse app. And there's wireless import. Download and install the free app on your computer, and when you get home from shooting, select Send to Computer. New photos are wirelessly transmitted and saved. Easy and simple. You can also download the free Remote Camera Control, a desktop app that controls the camera when it's connected to a computer using a USB cable. Click the shutter and the picture is transferred to the computer. Both apps available for Macs and Windows. There's not much that's missing from this kit, but an on-screen level, GPS, and touchscreen focus and snap would be good competitive features. This is a lot of camera for the money. I've detailed some minor shortcomings, but I'm very positive, and I have no reservations recommending this camera. The a6000 replaces the NEX6. The changes made further improve this sweet spot in Sony's mirrorless camera lineup. It combines quality hardware with powerful software to create an attractive camera for anyone who appreciates superior quality images.